Gail, have you got some questions, or I've used up the 45 minutes that we asked Patrick for?
The two main ones were answered about the FDA clearance and producing the test here locally. But we have a question from Dr. Cliff Otto. Is surveillance being done to look at varieties of SARS-CoV-2, you can tell he's a doctor, that are circulating in Hawaii in order to determine which mutations are being imported and whether your test will continue to detect these new varieties?
That's a great question. Because we're focused on what's called nucleocapsid protein that's inside the virus, because you get like a couple thousand X increase in number of opportunities for measurement, so it gives you a higher sensitivity. And the nucleocapsid protein for all of SARS, of the COVID viruses in particular, have a similar homology, so that we're expecting that we would pick up a couple strains of SARS. We haven't done those different tests. But to answer the question that you bring up on the changes in the particular strain, they have found those changes between what's in Asia and what's in Europe. And of course, when you keep mutating so many millions of copies and sharing those copies, you're going to get some changes. And so I think that's a great question for a more detailed PCR test, which can provide, basically create the genetic blueprint for these different strains and track them. We're not really set up to do that. And again, since the homology of the nucleocapsid protein is pretty similar, we don't expect that it has that kind of fidelity, but it is a really good question. And, there's some interesting things you could do with that data. Most interestingly, speak to the question of the kinetics of viral mutation and create some models to look at how that really happens in communities. So it's an interesting question. We wouldn't be able to provide that sensitivity, I think, of the different fine details and strains are mutating, but it is a good question.
That question was from Dr. Otto, Dr. Sullivan. I've been calling you Patrick, but you are Dr. Sullivan. One of the things that spun off from Dr. Otto's question was, is that test with the saliva adaptable to such things as the police can't tell who's under what drug, meth, whether it's meth, how much marijuana? Dr. Otto's a specialist in marijuana. Have you got a saliva test that says, hey, you okay, I don't smell any alcohol, but you look like you're really drugged. Can you measure meth or crack or heroin? I mean, I know this is kind of like a research thing, but it sounds like it would lend itself to that.
Yeah, it would. You can, so one of the ideas around designer molecules are tests for trace contaminants, for toxins, for everything from pesticides to, controlled substances. And there's all kinds of ways to use it. And the nice thing about it is that you're designing the two things that go into creating a new molecule that are kind of interesting. So the 3 billion base pairs for the human genome is all about sequence, but the thing that really deals with function is shape. So shape matters. These are three-dimensional structures. And so that's what we're addressing. So you can literally design the sequence and the shape for all kinds of things. That's what makes it kind of an interesting tool set.
Patrick,
So
mothers against drunk driving are going to take hope and inspiration from what you said, if that is an applicability, because they're concerned that, okay, we got the alcohol down, but we can't really detect what's drug system. Thank you, Dr. Otto, for inspiring that. Kaio, anything else? Otherwise, we've got 2 minutes. We've gone over our time with Dr. Sullivan.